Hey everyone, Christian here, and back in the house. A little bit stuck on time here, so I wanted to make a series on different botanical gardens in Florida. Which ones you should visit, which ones really aren't worth the time. So I'm going to go over different gardens in Florida. I'm going to make a video for each one, kind of describe my experience there, and which better one to start with is the one that I actually worked at full time. So that's going to be Fairchild Tropical Botanical Garden, as its full name is. Most people call it Fairchild or Fairchild Botanical Garden, but it's FTBG for short, I guess. It's located in Coral Gables, Florida, which is about 8 miles southwest of downtown Miami, more south than southwest. And if you're driving down from downtown Miami, you just go down Old Cutler Road. So it's located at, I believe it's 10901 Old Cutler Road, if I can remember correctly. So it's been 15 years since I've worked there. Um, so it is a garden. It's one of the, if not the oldest botanical garden in Florida, a major one at least. There might have been some smaller ones back in the day, but um, it was first established as sort of an area for collections in the 30s, I believe, and 40s, and really rose to prominence sort of, I want to say, in the 70s and 80s, when they really had some palms that no one else did have. Obviously it's located in a climate and a city. The climate is one of the best in the continental US, and it's a major, Miami's the sixth largest metropolitan area in the US. So there's going to be a lot of funding. I don't know if they get city funding, but they definitely have a large endowment fund from uh, the people that are donors there, and just from the money they collect. It's a very large operation, so they have the horticultural staff, which is one part of it. They have education, they have administration, um, and then there's a bunch of others. And obviously, I want to say there's like 100 employees, something like that. So it is a nonprofit. When I worked there, I was the nursery manager, and that's actually located on Montgomery Botanical Gardens property, which is closer to Old Cutler and 120th Street, a little further south in Coral Gables. Now, right where Fairchild is and Montgomery, I think it's called the Miami Ridge, but you have this hill that basically exists from around downtown Miami to about, I want to say, southwest 140th Street. Might go a little bit further north than downtown Miami. I haven't really checked it out, but it's very prominent in like the Coconut Grove, Coral Gables area by the water. So this is right on the bay essentially. And you can stay in the high area of the garden, which is more desert-like, and then you can tell you're going down to the lower kind of glades area, so to speak, or by the bay, when you walk into the rainforest area, which actually has elevation to it. When you're walking through it, you can feel the downhill and uphill. Um, you know, walking back towards the entrance is harder than walking down away from the entrance. So again, it's 81 acres. The price of admission is $25, which I think is pretty fair considering what they offer. You can stay there all day long, as far as I know. Obviously, when I was there, I didn't pay admission. I was given cards to give to other people for admission, so I kind of, I'm not used to paying to get into gardens, but for $25, I think it's, if you're on a trip and you get a whole day experience for $25, I think that'd be pretty good. It's, a world-class botanical garden. They have many species there that are very old. They have old borassus. They have old aranias, which I don't believe I've ever covered on this channel, because there just aren't very many of them. Covering the seedlings really isn't that interesting, but they're beautiful palms. They're very coconut-like. Um, there's, I could go through. There's countless numbers of mature palms that you would really not see anywhere else because they collected them first. Copernic, a lot of Cuban stuff, a lot of Malagasy, New Caledonian stuff, just from really all over the world, because people that work there were given the ability to travel to certain areas that otherwise wouldn't be allowed. But it was on a nonprofit mission to collect botanical specimens, so there are exceptions made for that, and just the money makes things easier. So I would recommend, there is a desert garden or a dry garden, I think is what they call it. There's a lot of cacti, just other dry living plants. There's like I mentioned, the rainforest garden where they grow a lot of tropical specimens or tropical looking specimens that require a lot of water. There is the kind of, I don't know what they call it, but it's sort of like a low-lying glades area. But there's also some. I mean, they have mesquite trees there. They have, coconuts are everywhere. Plenty of lakes. They have a really nice grove of Nipa fruticans, which I don't believe I've been able to cover on this channel. I don't think so, but is considered kind of like the father of all the other palms. It's considered the oldest, or the first palm to have kind of evolved from other plants. So, plenty of Caribbean species, plenty of tropical species, plenty of mature plants, and also a huge diversity of other plants. They have a fruit pavilion. They have a glass house with purely tropical plants. Now Miami's in a quote tropical climate. I believe it's a tropical monsoon, but even plants like lipsticks and like breadfruit, a couple other species that really need 100%, or not 100% humidity, but humid conditions almost 100% of the time, are kept in the conservatory, which is very nice. And they do switch out plants. Now the downsides are things that maybe I personally experienced, but you would not. It's more on the working side. In the past 20 years or so, Fairchild has transitioned from focusing on collecting palms collecting plants in general, I should say. Palms is a major component, but they collect all types of plants. And they have really moved from focusing on that to focusing more on it becoming more of a social club, which is not bad necessarily, except for it's fairly exclusive. And the money is sort of what drives that desire for that to become a social thing. It's a wedding destination. It is a place to have fundraisers. Now, Fairchild is run in a unique manner to any other garden that I have seen, or really any other administration that I have seen. So I'm not going to get into the politics or the bureaucratic part of why Fairchild is the way it is, but there are 3 people established as, I believe, trustees, and they can essentially determine what happens to the future of the garden, where any money goes. They don't really run the day-to-day stuff. That's kind of started by the head of the garden, who's actually a really nice guy, but the 3 guys up top, again, not going to name names, but they kind of call the shots. They're the men behind the curtain, so to speak, and what they say goes. There's one guy in particular that sort of seems to have more power than the other 2. I don't know if that's still in place. I don't know if it's the same 3 people, but it's an oligarchy. So it's not, there's no democratic process going into how the garden is going to work. It's going to work according to what those guys say, they want. So no one really sees that aspect of the garden. And if they want to make more money through education or fundraising, they're going to go that way. They want to collect more plants, they're going to go that way. What I remember, once a week we would have meetings. Me being the head of a certain part of the garden, I'm not really used to working like a 9 to 5, like where you're in an office, but this is the closest thing to it, and it kind of felt like too much like an office job. What I did enjoy working there. I got to work with a lot of great people that volunteered their time. Just people that had been around the garden for 40 years. These people were in their 60s and 70s, coming 2 or 3 times a week to help me pot plants, just do general weeding around the nursery, because it's a large nursery. There's 8, between shade houses and greenhouses, there were 8 structures, plus like an office that I had that was pretty cool. It was rudimentary, but it kind of felt like old Florida. and those people really care about that. There's a bunch of people that do work there and volunteer there that genuinely care about how amazing the garden is, because it is quite an amazing place. So you kind of have this, um, people who love plants, and then you have people that really love power, and there's sort of a struggle going on there. A lot of people have left because of that, and it's just unfortunate. So if I had never traveled to Fairchild and had gone there once and seen what they had to offer, would I go back, and would I, is it worth the $25 to visit? Yes, it definitely is. It is worth all of $25, and you could actually get a yearly membership. I want to say it's like $125, so 5 visits would pay for that. Plus, there's other things you get. There's a gift shop there. There's a cafe there. There's like a couple other buildings like for education, and you also get access to certain sales. I believe there's like member only sales, and they do have plants that no one else is offered until the members get them first. So do note that if you're going to come here from out of town, it is fairly pricey to stay in Miami. It is a lot of traffic. If you, like I said, if you're coming from Tampa, that's not a day trip, because you're going to be spending 10 hours total on the road. So unless you want to leave at 3 or 4 in the morning and leave at 5 o'clock, I mean, people do it. It's just not very. I would not want to do that anymore. Maybe when I was 15 years ago, I'd be okay with that. But I do highly recommend the garden. You don't have to. You're just there to see the plants and enjoy the scenery. There's some breathtaking views. They really do a great job with the hardscaping, and it's really very well run. So I just wish that they would continue their collection process, because other gardens have surpassed them in that capacity. So giving Fairchild like a rating, this is purely based off of like the collections part, about like a 9 to 9.5 out of 10. There's a couple other gardens that are nicer that are not United States, so I can't give it like a perfect score. I wanted to start with basically the best garden. I mean, the best known garden. I'm not going to call it the best garden because it's not. And the garden I had worked at, so I had some experience there. So if you decide to go, like I said, check those things out. Do note, in the summertime it is very hot and humid. So if you're from up north, make sure to bring a lot of water. And also to note, seed collecting is not allowed at the garden. So, I'm not going to condone seed collecting. Do people do that? Yes, they do. But don't be stupid. And if they have one plant that is happening to seed for the first time, there's even a sign. Don't pick those seeds up. They might have had that plant for 20 or 30 years. Now, if there's 20 of a plant, there's seeds everywhere, and you pick them up. Like I said, I'm not going to condone that. I'm just telling you that people do that. So, but just respect the property. It has a lot of history behind it, and enjoy yourself there. It's in Miami, $25 for a day. That's a steal for me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have more questions about Fairchild Botanical Garden, leave a comment down below. And if you enjoy discussing tropical plants in general, feel free to subscribe and hit that bell notification, and you'll see when I upload new videos. Thanks for watching.